please remember, this one idea is supremely important, and this would help us bridge the gap between what is happening in the education today, what the national education policy is aiming in the future. Not even 50% of the students are connected either to school or to the teacher or to the syllabus or to the class. They come because they are being sent forcefully by their parents. They come because they have no other alternative but to come to school. But they don't find anything to connect with the school. But Swami Vivekananda gave, that is why he gave a new idea, new vision of education. He said, education is not mere thrusting of academics. He said, education is something else. Education, he said, see, what is our conventional idea of education? Our conventional idea of education is the flow of knowledge from the teacher to the student. The teacher or the teachers are repositories of knowledge. The flow of knowledge is from the teacher to the student. But Swamiji completely reversed his idea. He said it is not from outside to inside. He said it is from inside to outside. He said each one of us, irrespective of our background, our caste, creed, culture, even our idea of as a man or woman, he said each one of us is blessed with infinite power and potential. That he called perfection. He said education is the manifestation is perfection. In other words, he said, education is that by which the teacher, the school, the syllabus, parents all put together will facilitate the manifestation of what is inside every child. That gives an enormous new foundation for education. You know, if you say that, if you basically accept this idea, each and every child is born with a tremendous power, possibility, knowledge, glory, etc., which is defined in a simple word called perfection. That completely changes the dynamics of education itself. If you accept this idea, basically, if each one of us, all of us who are involved in education, make this as a starting premise, each and every child is blessed with something very powerful, very unique, very important, and each and every child is equally wonderful. If you start with this idea, then there won't be any problem in clubbing together 0 out of 100 and 100 out of 100. Because the focus shifts from mere academics to something all round. A child will not feel inferior compared to a topper in the class in terms of math, science, computer science, or whatever it is. Because once a child understands, in me also there is something very unique. In me also there is something very powerful, very positive. I am not a pushover, I am not a washout, I am not a no-hoper because I am not good in academics. The moment a child understands, particularly in a country like India, where more than 50% of children come from very underprivileged backgrounds, many are the first-time learners and so on. In such a situation, if each and every child believes that he or she is endowed with power and knowledge and glory, and the system has to make it manifest, probably they'll be able to connect to school, connect to teachers, they would love coming to school, they would find a new meaning. Now we know the point is, what does this really mean? Because it's a very huge idea. Something path-breaking, something transformational. But it is going to take time even for all of you to get, a grip of this idea. Because, this has never been education, has never been or never afterwards defined in this way, saying that education is actually bringing out the perfection in each student. Now, this has to be defined, this has to be elaborately discussed. In some way, our resource persons will give you a glimpse of that. But I will give you one example which would make this idea clear. Supposing, for example, I don't know what our Pushpinder Kaur is teaching, what she was in her school, I don't know. Today she's a principal. Maybe she was a very good maths teacher. And, in a class of 50 students, throughout the year, she taught mathematics with same conviction, same dedication, same sincerity to all the students. Now, if our idea, the flow of knowledge is from the teacher to the student is valid, then at the end of the year, if you conduct the examination, all the students should have got the same marks. But the marks vary from 0 to 100. What does it mean? It means Pushpinder Kaur was only a facilitator, was only a catalyst. In whichever student there was a spark of mathematics that manifested. In whichever student that spark was not there, it didn't manifest. But then what it did, at the same time, it opens up a huge lot of possibilities, because in me there is a spark of mathematics, in someone there is a mathematics spark of science, in someone it's a spark of languages, someone it's a spark of pottery, someone it's a spark of tea making, anything. So, a child would understand once his idea. So this completely validates Swamiji's idea. Education is not from outside to inside, but it's from inside to outside. The school, teachers, books, facilities, parents, we are all catalysts trying to do the enormous task of bringing out what is best in each child. This would require enormous time, enormous effort. Every student has to be studied, every student has to be attended, encouraged, and so on. In a vast system like ours, where we are all running like anything to catch up with time, catch up with our syllabus, catch up with so many other things, that kind of an individual attention is not possible. But as a whole, if we can very strongly convey this idea, this is what Swamiji defined as Atma Shraddha, or self-belief. If the child, I've been constantly telling all principals wherever I go, if the school can do this one service, convey to each and every child, whether a bright student or a dull student or a hopeless student or any student, to every student, the single idea, the idea of Atma Shraddha, or self-belief. In me, there is enormous power, enormous possibility. If I try, I can bring it out. I can live for myself. I will be a success. I need not feel despondent because I have not been able to do so well in academics. So this one idea, a single mantra, namely Atma Shraddha, the power of believing in oneself. If our schools can do this one job, I think we would have taken our education forward by leaps and bounds. You see, whatever you do to the school, unless the child believes it is capable, it's not going to do it. You may design wonderful programs, you may bring out wonderful policies, but basically, this idea should be instilled in the students. I am sure by the time the new educational policy takes root, if all our schools, at least a majority of the schools, can develop this one idea in the students, namely Atma Shraddha, I am sure getting through this national education policy would be a very, very small task. Because now once a child understands, see, this has been tested through our program. A child which has self-belief, how does it respond? We have tested, we have mapped, we have captured through videos, etc. All of them will be shared by our resource persons. But essentially, please remember, this one idea is supremely important. And this would help us bridge the gap between what is happening in the education today, what the national education policy is aiming in the future, to bridge the gap in a very short term, without spending too much time. Just through 16 modules for 3 years, we can do this enormous job of completely motivating the children, enormous task of laying a new foundation for education. And that is the basic drift of this program.